And we're back. Hello, everyone. This is part two. I hope you guys enjoyed part one of the most unique dolls in my collection. I realized as I was making this video and choosing which dolls that there definitely will need to be a part three. Um, how blessed am I that I get to make three of these videos? It's like this is like Christmas to me every time when I get to make a video about my dolls, and especially ones that probably you haven't seen in a while. And I think a lot of these fall into that category. It's just nice for me because I get to interact with them and talk about them, and I really enjoy it. So I hope that you guys enjoy it as well. And I think that it seems like there's not a lot of monster slash fantasy alternative collectors anymore, at least not on YouTube. So if you're out there, please comment, please, so I can go to your channel and subscribe. Please make videos so I can see your dolls. I really miss seeing the more alternative dolls. The humans are beautiful, the traditional style reborns, but I really miss seeing the alternatives. So if you have a channel and you have dolls, please, I want to see them. I love the alternative and the monster dolls. Obviously, as you can see, we are starting off today with some unicorns. These are all the Legend kit by Tracy Shaka. I hope I said that correctly. I think I did. And actually, the one on the far right was the prototype when the kit originally came out. So the vinyl is a bit different. It's much harder. And so yeah, it's the first zombie unicorn of the reborn world, and I'm the one who made it. So I actually made the one on the left and the one on the right. The one on the middle is one that I coveted from a good friend of mine. I think this kit is just stunning, and I can't imagine ever parting with any of these three. They are very special to me. As you can see, the kit has quite a lot of details. There's, of course, the hair on the hooves, and then I'm not sure if that's hair going upwards or what that's supposed to be. There's some swirls, like fantasy swirls up the arms, and the eyes are part of the kit. I suppose that you could cut them out and put your own eyes in, but all of these have the painted eyes, and that's the way the kit is sculpted, and it's just so cool. I mean, when I heard that this kit was going to be sculpted and released, and especially when I was chosen to do one of the prototypes, I was so crazy excited, and I still feel that same excitement every time I look at these three. There is actually a second body type for this kit, which makes it stand more naturally like a horse, like a My Little Pony. I prefer this body that the kit originally came with, where they sort of sit up like a kid. But there are two different body styles, and both of them look really, really cool. I just prefer this one. So let's talk about them individually. This is Sassafras, and she is inspired by the Sassy Unicorn, which is a digital art piece made by Jessica Leclerc. I hope I'm not butchering her name. I'll put a link in the description to this art piece. It's one of my favorites ever. I have it on a mug, I have it on a pillow, I have it on a blanket. It's this beautiful rainbow unicorn with this wild pink and purple and blue hair, and I was like, I've got to have that digital art, but in a reborn form. And so this is the second Legend kit that I created. And actually, there is a third version that is sort of a hybrid between the zombie that I made, which was the prototype, and this one. It's sort of a zombie rainbow unicorn. And that's the only other one that I have ever made of this kit. And I really am just a huge, huge fan of the unicorns. You guys are probably going to laugh at me, but I realized as I was making this video, even though I've had this doll for many years now, that I forgot to name her when I created her. So I think I was just so excited about getting to do one of the prototypes and getting to make the first zombie unicorn that the community's ever seen that I just completely spaced actually giving her a proper name. So I suppose her name is Legend, which is still very fitting for a unicorn. I think it's sort of perfect. But I wanted her to have some sort of bloodshot eyes, and I wanted her to look like she's had maybe some injuries or some cuts and scrapes, and of course the blood on the horn was very important because what is a zombie unicorn going to do? They're going to stick their horn in you and disable you so they can eat your brains. She's got a little black sludge as well. So she's kind of got some little My Little Pony aspects with the little different rainbow circles on her cheeks, and of course the X's everywhere to signify that she is in fact a monster. But I'm over the moon with her. I will never, ever, ever not have her as part of my collection. I'm very proud of her. I'm very proud of the fact that, again, she was one of the prototypes. And I just think she turned out really beautifully, even though she was one of the most nerve-wracking dolls I've ever made, because I wanted to make the sculptor happy. And of course, I wanted her to be amazing. And I'm so, so happy with how she turned out. This is Vertigo. She is a zombie carousel unicorn, and obviously she has escaped from her prison and now wants revenge. She was created by Madam's Asylum, and you can find her on Instagram. Extremely talented artist. I was not following her when this doll was created. I would have absolutely lost my mind. When I did find her later and I went back through her work, I was just mesmerized by her zombie unicorns. And just the same as with Precious from Lacey Michelle, the last doll in my previous video, this unicorn lived rent-free in my mind for a long time. I thought about her a lot. I really, really wanted one. And when I finally did find her secondhand, I was just ecstatic. And I do seem to have a talent for, I guess you'd call it manifesting. If there's a doll out there that really, really calls to me, they eventually end up here. And I don't know how that works exactly. Maybe I'm good with the energy. I don't know. But I'm very, very thankful to have her here because now she lives rent-free in my house instead of just in my head. Next up we have Story, and Story is a dragon-human hybrid, and her creation was inspired very directly by the work of another artist who had created a doll that looked very similar to this. The head was almost exactly the same, but the body was a little different, and I'll explain that, and I'll link a video in the description so you can see photos and a comparison between the two dolls. But unfortunately, getting a custom from this artist was not an option. And one of the reasons it wasn't an option is because a lot of times this particular artist, who I'm not going to necessarily mention here by name, because I don't have a lot of good things to say. So I feel like that wouldn't be the best course of action. And I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but the truth of this doll is that, and that situation is that this particular artist often pays a lot of attention to the face, and the faces are very beautiful and very interesting, and then the body leaves a lot to be desired and tends to be quite plain. With this doll in particular, it really stood out because you have this very dragony face with the snout and the stuff on her head and the ears and all that going on. And the original doll actually had painted on fangs, which I cannot do painted on fangs. I'm sorry, y'all. They have to be sculpted. It's just, I feel like it's a little bit lazy. Just make them out of Sculpey. Just make them 3D. It's not that hard. But anyways, that's just a little pet peeve of mine. I don't like painted fangs. So her fangs are actual Sculpey clay. They are sculpted on. But her body is actually quite different than the doll that she was inspired by, because she has a lot of dragony details, little patches of scales that are iridescent, and I tried very hard to make her claws instead of fingernails. I think the original doll, if I'm remembering correctly, had a very plain body and didn't even have the human style fingernail tips, whereas this doll has painted on claws on both her hands and her feet. I really wanted to represent the dragon part of her, but because I knew I was making her for myself and for my collection, I didn't want to also add sculptural details on her hands and feet because the head is so incredibly fragile. Now, Sculpey will stand up to the test of time. I have a lot of dolls that I've added sculptural elements to over the years, and if you take care of them and you're careful, they'll stand up. They'll hold up. But because there's so much going on in her head with the big fancy ears and the snout and the fangs and the whatever you call those dragon, the ridges on the top of her head, I personally didn't want to also have to worry about breaking off a fingernail or a toenail. I didn't want every aspect of this doll to be fragile, and I wanted to be able to change her into different clothes without having a total panic attack. So that's why I opted for the painted on claws, but I actually think they look really cool, and I'm really proud of myself for coming up with that design because I think it really speaks to her dragon nature without actually being something that is going to be fragile and stress me out as her mommy. Mad props to the original artist who came up with the dragon head and face design. I obviously fell in love with it and I had to have my own. And I think it's really cool that even though my doll is inspired by theirs, it's still one of a kind because of the details I added to her. This boy. Lauren is joining me for this one.
Because I know this boy.
Orion was made by Stephanie Ortiz and Love with Reborns 2011. That's her name now, right? I think it used to be on Love with Reborns 2014.
Yeah, it's 2011.
Me and Stephanie go way back, okay? Like family. We joined the community at the same time. We were on Laura's forums, Little X Loves.
Back when there was a forum.
Lauren watched us, and Lauren used to watch Orion on my channel. Orion is the oldest baby in my collection.
He is also the coolest.
He surpasses Zimone. He is the oldest baby that is still remaining in my collection. I will never, ever, ever let go of Orion. He is, I don't know what it is about him.
He is the OG of OGs.
I'm so bonded to this doll. And I don't get him out enough, unfortunately, these days, but he's just such perfection. The story behind Orion is that Stephanie and I were good friends way in the beginning of us joining this hobby, and she was creating Orion. She used to make really cool alternative dolls. I wish she would still do that, but I don't think she does anymore. But anyways, she had made a zombie for me, and she was making Orion, and she said that she was trying to do a zombie with him. And she sent me some photos, and she's like, what do you think? Because she was kind of like on the fence of what direction she wanted to go, and I'm like, he's an alien. He's a human alien hybrid. I just see it. That's what I see. She's like, you think so? And I'm like, yeah. And so when she finished him as an alien, I was like, I have to have him. He's amazing. Like, I have to have him. And Orion is a big hit, even with my friends here who are like my dude friends, who are not into the dolls at all, but they'd be like, how's Orion?
Yeah.
How's Orion doing? I'm like, Orion's good. And like my one very close friend that I've known forever, his name's Kyle, he actually buys clothes for Orion. Like, if he sees something that is space themed, he will buy it for Orion. It's not always the right size, y'all. Let's be real. Sometimes it's way too big.
Look,
but he's trying. Like, I appreciate it. So this is my dude Orion, and yeah, he's just fabulous.
He decided I'm not going to be a zombie.
Yeah, he did from the very beginning. I just knew, and it was so funny too because M's Swanky Booties, she had seen Orion on Stephanie's social media and wanted him, and Stephanie was like, you know, he's already spoken for, he's already somebody else's. And it was so funny when Ems and I, because we weren't friends at that point, we didn't know each other at that point really, had never talked. And so when she told me that about Orion, I was like, that's too funny. And actually, this is another kit that's gone now, isn't it?
Yep.
Another Bountiful Baby kit.
I forget the name of it. I think it was Yuki, actually.
Keiko?
No.
No. I'll have to ask Ems. Let me phone a friend, y'all. Hold on a second.
Hello?
Hey, I need to know real quick. Do you remember Orion's kit name?
Yeah.
What is it?
Isn't it like... Oh, shit.
5 minutes later.
You said Yuki. Kamiko by Tasha Edenholm. Thank you so much. So he is Kamiko by Tasha Edenholm, but he is Orion Vega to me, and he is out of this world. This little lady in pastel is Fantasy. She was created by Twisted Beanstalk Nursery, and she is one of the prototypes for the Fauna kit from Bountiful Baby. And I'm not sure if you can still get this kit to actually paint As a blank kit, I think they only sell their painted version, which is cute, and I have one of those. But obviously, it looks like a regular traditional fawn, and fantasy is a whole other story. She's just so incredibly beautiful. She's pastel all over, pastel rainbow. She has a little heart in the middle of her forehead. And I think if you're going to make a fantasy doll, you might as well go all out with the coloring and everything. And Twisted Beanstalk definitely has done that in this case. This is such a beautiful doll. I'm still amazed that I have her in my collection. She is another one that definitely lived rent free in my head the minute I saw her in the prototype photos. I was not her original mommy, but I am her forever mommy because she is never going anywhere. And it's really funny because the last doll in this video, which follows her, is another Twisted Beanstalk baby, another prototype doll, and another extremely creative and unique take on a fantasy kit that I think no one else in the world would have done that with these kits, and it turned out so beautifully. So I feel very fortunate to have her, and if I have any complaints about this doll, it's certainly not with the artwork, but I wish she was just a little bit bigger. She's really hard to find clothing for because she is preemie size, but also she has the fantasy legs, the fantasy limbs, so it's a little tricky to dress her, but I have been, tucking things around her like I did with this little blue little jumper thing. And I just try to make it work with safety pins and what have you, but she fits okay in preemie until you get to her very long fawn legs, and she's just so funny. She's so funny, and she has such a happy energy to her. I mean, how can you look at her and not feel, happy? She's just so bright and beautiful and colorful and amazing. So every time I look at her, I'm reminded of all the times I looked at her pictures and wished that she was mine. And that sort of thing is never lost on me. It really isn't. I am constantly thinking about the fact that I have this collection of dolls that's very unique and very interesting and very me. And I think everyone has that. Everyone has their dream collection, and I think it's different for everyone, obviously. But my collection of dolls is so very me. It's so very the different aspects of my personality, from the very happy, energetic Tigger style energy to the darker, more gothic dolls. They all have a place here, and she definitely has a forever home with me. Last but certainly not least, we have Beatrix. She is also created by Twisted Beanstalk Nursery, and she is a prototype for the Ferdinand kit. And this is another take that is so creative and so insanely unique and so beautifully executed. I don't have enough words. I don't. This doll, I loved this doll from the moment I saw it. I obsessed over it. I just absolutely adore this take. And I have a couple of Ferdinands. I have a Mandrake that I made, and I have a Krampus that I made from the kit. And I never would have thought to make a bee inspired doll from this kit, but it's so cool the way that her little fingernails and toenails and her little hoof and everything is painted in this black and white striped style. She even has a special body that I believe was requested by Twisted Beanstalk for this prototype, because the original Ferdinand body is furry, but it's not like bumblebee butt furry like this one is. It's just so cute. It's like, she reminds me of when you see the bees sleeping in flowers, the little bumblebees. That's the vibe I get from her. She's just so adorable and so interesting and so unique. And I there's not enough words. Like I said, there's not enough words to explain how much I love this doll and how beautiful she is in person, how colorful she is. I was ecstatic to be able to add this doll to my collection. I think she fits in quite well. I do have a lot of dolls from Twisted Beanstalk, and this one is just so incredibly unique. Look at the little, I think that's meant to be pollen in between her eyebrows there and on her little ears. The little fingernails with the bee design. Like, I'm dead, y'all. I'm dead. Look how beautiful she is. And so interesting. And again, I would never have looked at the Ferdinand kit and thought to go this direction, but it really is just so beautifully done and so visually stunning. I'm just amazed every time I look at this doll. And on top of the beautiful artwork, the Ferdinand kit itself is sculpted so beautifully. The little hands, the little face, the little ears. Like, it's adorable. It's so adorable and it's so perfectly fantasy. So, this is one of the most interesting dolls in my collection by far. It's one of the most interesting dolls and most interesting takes on a kit that I've ever personally seen. I think a lot of people went the fairy direction with this kit, and this is definitely fantasy, but in a totally unexpected and creative and beautiful, colorful, bright way. And I just can't say enough good about this doll. I would love to see more work like this from Twisted Beanstalk. I think that she excels when she takes big risks. This doll was definitely a big risk, but it paid off in such a beautifully unexpected way. And that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you will return for part 3. And if you have comments or questions, please leave them below. I would love to know your thoughts. And I would love to see everyone else's unique dolls and hear why they love them so much. Stay safe out there. I love you guys, and I will see you next time.